One.
All right, so today we will be talking about energy sources. Our essential question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each energy source? So we'll also be talking about renewable and non-renewable resources, but all of this ties together. So on your paper, your first thing that we're going to talk about is biomass. So if you locate biomass on the paper, in the box on the left where it says biomass, you're going to put down the what is it section, and then you can see there's an advantages and disadvantages section on your paper. So that's how you'll be filling this paper out as you go. So what is biomass? So especially if this is your resource, pay close attention. So it's a renewable energy source made of biological matter from living or recently living organisms. Energy is released by combustion or burning of the energy sources. So it could be like crops, agriculture, from some sewage, industrial residues, animal residues. So like kind of composting, right? When compost, things you would put into there, and some other solid waste. So what are the disadvantages of biomass? It's inefficient. So only 30% efficiency. So inefficient means it's not very effective for how much work you have to do. It releases harmful solid carbon particles into the atmosphere. So it releases harmful carbon particles into the atmosphere. So those are just a couple of the disadvantages. Some of the advantages of biomass: it produces less pollution than fossil fuels like oil, coal. It does not cause acid rain, so that's a good advantage, better for the air quality. It can be found locally, and it's renewable, meaning that you can always find more of it. All right, so that will be your biomass. All right, so nuclear. So what is nuclear? It's radiation released from the nuclei of metal atoms. Okay, the radiation can be used to generate electricity. So what are some disadvantages of the nuclear energy source? It's harmful waste. So when this happens, it creates harmful radioactive waste. Uranium supplies may only last for another 50 or so years. So it's going to obviously run out. So it's non-renewable. And radiation may cause and has been linked to cancer. Some advantages: its greenhouse gases are not made, so it does not create greenhouse gases, which is one of the causes of global warming. Only a small amount of fuel is needed to create a lot of energy, so it's very efficient. Unlike biomass, it's very efficient. Small amounts of fuel needed to create lots and lots of energy. All right, so wind. So if you have wind, pay attention here. What is it? So wind turbines are used to generate electricity from the wind. You may have seen these here and there, especially southern Texas has a lot of them. The wind turns the large blades, and the blades turn a generator. So what are the disadvantages? Lots of wind turbines are needed to produce enough power, so you need a lot of them. Turbines can only be put in windy areas. It's not always windy, depending on the weather conditions. And some people don't like the look, so it's not aesthetically pleasing. Some people are picky about what they see. What are the advantages, though? What are the good things? It's renewable because it's free, right? Wind is free. It doesn't produce those greenhouse gases, which increase the global warming. And there are very few safety risks. Okay, so it's not like drilling for oil and things like that, and nuclear, which could cause cancer. There's very, very few safety risks. So a lot of people do like that about it. All right, so solar power is next. So what is solar power? It uses energy from the sun. Some people have these. There's a picture of it on the house. So your house could possibly have solar panels. They transfer the sun's energy to heat water. So what are the disadvantages? What are my disadvantages for solar power? It's very expensive. Solar panels are expensive. So if you have them on your house, then your parents probably paid a lot for them. When is it cloudy? At night. So there's not enough light. So when it's cloudier at night, you don't get as much energy. And again, some people don't like the look of them because they're picky. Advantages, though, to that solar power. Again, it's free because you don't have to pay for the sun. And the sun obviously does not produce those greenhouse gases. And it will always be here. The sun's not going anywhere for about 5.4-ish, 5.5 billion years. So I think we'll be good. All right, so if you have geothermal is next. So what is geothermal energy? It's rocks under the ground that are hot. Water can be pumped through these hot rocks and warmed up. Okay, beautiful hot rocks. Not pop rocks that you eat. So disadvantages. What are my disadvantages to geothermal? There are not many places where we could build geothermal power stations. There's just not a lot of area where we could actually produce these. Harmful gases and minerals may occasionally come up from the ground. So sometimes things are going to come up from the ground that we don't want when we're digging through these. And they can be difficult to control. So they can be difficult to actually harness that energy that we need. But what are my advantages to those geothermal plants? Geothermal energy does not produce greenhouse gases, again, better on the environment, and it's free and will not run out, so it's renewable. Again, free and renewable. Beautiful. So hydroelectric, let's see if you have hydroelectric, we're paying close attention. What is it? Well, it's flowing water is used to turn a turbine, which generates electricity. So what are some disadvantages? Well, the dam, like the Hoover Dam, is expensive to build. By building a dam, the nearby area has to be flooded, and that could affect the habitats of animals and plants nearby. And then you may not have enough water to turn the turbines if you go through like a drought or the area doesn't receive much rainfall. So what are my advantages to that hydroelectric power? When the electricity is generated, no greenhouse gases are made. Beautiful, good for the environment. The water is, again, free and renewable. Beautiful things. All right, so some non-renewable and renewable resources. So if your resource hasn't been talked about yet, it will be. Don't worry. Our first recap time. What do you think non-renewable resources are? So not examples of them, but what in general are non-renewable resources? So if you break it down, what's non-renewable mean? And then what is a resource? And then kind of formulate your own little definition there. All right, so non-renewable resources. A non-renewable resource is a natural resource that cannot be remade or regrown as at a scale comparable to its consumption, which means it can't be regrown or remade to the size it once was. So nuclear energy, we talked about that a little bit earlier. This is a non-renewable resource because once uranium's used, it's gone. So if you have coal, petroleum, and gas, that's the fossil fuels. They are considered non-renewable because they cannot be replenished in a short period of time. They have taken a long time to be made. So a disadvantage, obviously, is that they're a non-renewable resource. So how is coal made? All right, so how is coal made? If you look over here at the picture, the timeline, so it has a swamp 300 million years ago. And then 100 million years ago, those dead plants and dead animals and everything get compressed down and pushed. So over millions of years, the plants were buried under the water and dirt. Heat and pressure turned the dead plants into coal. And coal is made of carbon. And living things have carbon in them. So that's why carbon is made. How are oil and gas made? So if you look at the first picture, it says small sea plants and animals died and were buried on the ocean floor. So over time, they were covered by layers of sand. Over millions of years, so that's why it can't be renewed, because it takes millions of years. The enormous heat and pressure turned them into oil and gas, and then we drilled down to get that. So it takes millions of years, so it makes it non-renewable. So the difference between coal, oil, and gas, which we just talked about, is just the matter that created it, right? So basically, plants help make the coal, and oil and gas were made from the plants and animals in the ocean with the sand and silt compressed down. Recap time. If non-renewable resources are resources that cannot be remade at a scale comparable to its consumption, what are renewable resources? So now I want you to think about what renewable resources are. So here are the renewable resources, and we already talked about these. So renewable resources, they're natural resources that can be replenished in a short period of time. So solar, wind, water, geothermal, and biomass. And we talked about these. So solar, it's energy from the sun. But why is the sun renewable? Think about it. Oh, wait, because it's always going to be there, right? 5 billion more years of beautifulness. Geothermal, we talked about this. So it's energy from the Earth's heat. Wind, energy obviously from wind. Biomass, this is energy from burning organic or living matter. Water, because it comes from the flowing of water. Final recap time. had to say it twice just in case. What are the differences between non renewable and renewable resources? List in